Awesome. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Adventures Less Travel podcast. I'm sitting here with Chad Caruso. Thanks so much for sitting down. We're in Long Island, New York. So is this like your hometown?
Yep.
Grew up here?
Born and raised. Yep.
Awesome.
Whole life, pretty much.
Okay. So before we get into it, you pushed your skateboard across the country, a tremendous accomplishment in and of itself, a Guinness World Record. But before we get there, I'm just kind of curious about the skate scene in general. So is Long Island, or I guess New York City for that matter, like really big into skateboarding relative to the rest of the world?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the biggest, I'd say, places for skateboarding. Yeah, California is like the Mecca, basically. And then, yeah, New York's up there for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know how many of my listeners know that much about skateboarding or like the background of it, but I imagine if you're closer to like hills and mountains, like Colorado area, you kind of gravitate towards longboarding versus like if you're in a city, it's more skateboarding kind of stuff.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, there's just the urban, so much stuff going on in the city, so many different, buildings, marble, all this stuff, and then you got people from all over the world, so it's like perfect for street skating, really.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And do you find a lot of crossover between people who skateboard and then people who longboard? Like, do you longboard? Or is it
honestly is almost no crossover.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of like they're in their own lanes and like people don't really cross over.
Oh, interesting.
Occasionally, and more recently, a little bit, maybe the older skater will be like, oh, I'll do a long push and I'll get a longboard but for the most part, it's like pretty separate disciplines.
Is it, would you say it's kind of like skiing, snowboarding? Like,
yeah,
same purpose ultimately, I guess, but like the way you go about it's completely different.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm not even too familiar with the longboarding side.
Right.
I really only started learning when I did this trip.
Sure. So when you say you started learning, just like learning how like the wear and tear of the board over time, or like what? Like,
everything. Like I've basically never rode a longboard my whole life.
Okay.
My friends had like a cruiser board, we call them, just a board with softer wheels.
Yeah.
Ridden that a couple times, but until I had the idea to skate across America, I knew nothing about it. So I was just researching all the time, Googling, learning about the wheels, the board setups, and all that stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll get into the whole big trip in a little bit, but you just recently finished a new trick for every 30 days. Kind of like I've noticed you have these segments like where you'll do some sort of another one you had was 50 tricks, 50 states, which was pretty cool. So maybe just tell us about that. Like how did that come to be? What made you? That's a really hard endeavor too, by the way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like learning a new trick every day is not.
It depends also how you go about it, but generally, a new trick every day is pretty tough.
Yeah.
I tried to make it like as hard as I can push myself. I'm not going on easy tricks, something I could just get, So, I don't know. I just learned early on that if I set these challenges for myself, it's easier for me to push my limits and lock in. When I got all the options in the world, it's easy to kind of drift away.
Right.
So I enjoy those limitations.
Yeah. And I guess it also holds you accountable.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly.
You want to finish.
You announce you're skating across America to everyone. It's like, all right, do it.
Yeah. Cool, man. And so do you have like of the last 30 days for this recent one, since you just finished, like, was there one that gave you a hard time? Like, was there a day, because I imagine you have to like think through all like the possibilities. Like, was there a day that you're like, Jesus Christ, I don't think I'm going to finish or get it? Like, I'm not going to nail it.
Yeah, there was a couple of them. I'd say the one that's in my memory, because the most recent was like, I think it was day 29. So like day before last. Yeah. The tricks kept getting harder as I was going along. I just kept trying to like up myself, but every day I'd wake up and be like, how am I going to top yesterday? This is impossible. So I'm trying this trick 4 hours, can't get it. My legs are starting to go. And I'm just like, I gotta switch to something else. Like, I don't know, sun's coming down. Luckily I ended up getting one, but there were a bunch of days like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you finished. You made it.
Yeah, I made it. Yeah. I mean, that's basically it. I just wouldn't take no for an answer.
Yeah. For sure. So when you're, okay, I guess a point of clarity. So the 30 tricks, were there 30 new tricks that you knew, or like were some of them tricks you did like 10, 20 years ago that you kind of brought back?
These are all tricks that I've never done before.
Okay.
And some of them, I mean, it's hard to really know because there's not much of a categorization system in skateboarding,
right?
Or cataloging, but a lot of people think that some of these have never been done. So I'm trying to push the limits of skateboarding in general.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what really excites me.
Yeah.
It's like doing things like maybe that hasn't been done. Maybe that's a completely new thing, you know?
So like to validate if it is or not, is it just pretty much like someone's like, hey, I know someone who did that trick, and then they send you a video? Or
Yeah.
like,
It's like a general consensus. Like someone will see it and they'll be like, I don't think that's been done. You know, they call it NBD, never been done.
Okay.
It's like the term.
Yeah.
You know, and if someone's seen it, they'll be the first to let you know. You know, they'll hop on there and, you know. Yeah.
Cool. Now, I got to ask about the names of tricks. As someone who doesn't skateboard, I find the names very funny because, like, some of them are like, where do these names even, like, come from? Like, are they, like, if you do a certain trick, is there a system to it, like the Dewey Decimal System, like you have a certain...
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's actually really interesting. And I've learned over the years, I'm so involved in it, so it all sounds normal. But I started to realize people that don't skate, it sounds like a completely different language.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there is a system to it, but it's incredibly flawed. It's like there's like a lot of things don't add up properly, and like we just kind of went with it, and here we are.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, like I guess like, for example, like the numbers, like a 270 or a 360, that's all about how many spins you would get.
Yeah.
Right?
So that stuff makes sense. Yeah. 360 is a full, you know, I start facing one direction,
right,
do a full 360,
yeah.
180, 270, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
That stuff's pretty, you know, squared away.
Yeah.
It's the names where people are just like, oh, no one did this, I'm going to throw something in there.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know.
Cool.
Yeah.
And now have you done like competitions? Like what encompasses being a professional skateboarder?
All right. So, I mean, really, skateboarding's kind of weird because
it's such
not
a niche
so cut
scene,
and dry.
yeah.
Like, oh, you're a professional basketball player, you're in the NBA or something. It's we just kind of like made up rules or didn't, and they just don't really make sense. So our criteria is like your name's on the board. Nowadays, everyone's starting companies.
Yeah.
So, you know, you could be pro tomorrow if I slap your name on the board. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I guess, yeah, it's like kind of entering contests or skating at a certain level that everyone kind of agrees on, you know, is like a professional level. But yeah, there's many different versions of a pro, you know?
Yeah. So like when they skate at like X Games, I guess, how are they assessing, I mean, I'm sure this is a quick Google search away, but like, how do you assess how good one trick, or I guess sequence of tricks or one skater, like how do you kind of compare apples to apples?
I mean, yeah, it's a very complex system. It's, I guess there's the technical side, right? Like you're flipping your board around. So how risky is it to make your board move around under your feet and get back on it?
Right.
That, you know, and then there's like I don't know, like kind of how hard or big you'd push yourself.
Yeah.
You know, so that element of like the fear overcoming, you know, big obstacle or something like that. And then style, trick selection, you know, mixing it up a lot, being creative. So there's all different things that go into like picking a score.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's, I guess, more of like an art form kind of thing where it's like seeing, I guess, in terms of like style, right? Like if you land gracefully, then it's like, oh, that's a lot harder to do than someone who just kind of like stumbles and wobbles and barely makes it out.
And another interesting point is like a judge, they could think one style's cooler than another. So they're going to have a bias, and we don't really know how to like calibrate that. There's clear things where if your hand touches the ground, that's kind of a no.
Right.
You know, that's like, yeah, that was sketchy.
Yeah.
Points off, you know.
Okay. So I know the skate fans out there are probably chomping at the bit for some technical questions. So I got like this lightning round.
Okay.
I call it firsts and favorites.
Okay.
So, and then we could dive into the skate across America, but let's give these guys some red meat. So pretty much, for example, the first one, I have day. So like explain maybe the first day you stepped on a skateboard, and then like your favorite day among all your experiences. What was your favorite day skating?
I mean, first day on a board was probably, I was like 5 years old, and my older brother skated, put me on a board, shot me down my cousin's upstate New York steep driveway, and I just went flying into the woods.
Nice.
Didn't pick it up till 10 years later, but that definitely, I think, left a memory in my mind.
Okay.
Best day, the day I finished the Skate Across America, I think.
Sure.
Just like hundreds of people around. It was just an unreal moment.
Just pure elation.
Yeah.
Okay. First skateboard, favorite skateboard.
First skateboard was a Blind Reaper, back when Blind was big.
Okay.
And you said favorite skateboard? Or no?
Yeah, like if you had a favorite setup or a favorite
favorite board
brand or whatever.
I mean, the Skate Across America board is just with the wheels and everything.
Iconic.
It's just like a funny thing to look at.
Yeah.
So that's probably the one.
Okay, sweet. First skate park, favorite skate park. I don't know if they're one and the same.
First skate park is called Baldwin Skate Park. It's like a really crappy park my dad brought me to when I was younger. And favorite skate park, it's probably not the best in the world, but I'm going to say Tanner. It's the park I petitioned to build like 20 years ago and been going my whole entire life.
Oh, no way.
And just the community there, and I'm biased to it because I grew up there, but I just love our scene and how everyone carries themselves there.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Injury. So first injury and least favorite.
All right, first
Not
injury.
That's a favorite, but
yeah. Who has a favorite injury? I like
Yeah.
that. All right. Let's see. First injury. Let's see. First injury. Oh, I tore my ACL and PCL in my left knee. I had to get surgery. That was a pretty big one.
That's
I was
brutal.
like 22 or something.
Okay.
Favorite injury? I'd say, let's see. I mean, what could be my favorite injury?
Bones sticking out or anything?
Yeah. When I skated across America and my feet were completely black and blue from plantar fasciitis and Achilles tendonitis and all that stuff.
Okay.
That just kind of looked funny, ingrown toenails and all that stuff. So, just the wear and tear from that is probably my favorite.
All right.
Yeah.
Competitive event.
Let's see. I really never entered contests.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't like huge into that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go none for both of them.
NA.
Yeah.
All right. So then trick, first, favorite, and then hardest.
Okay. First trick. Shove it, probably. Okay. Yeah. First flip trick was a vario flip. What was the middle one? Sorry.
Favorite and then hardest.
Okay. Favorite, I think, is a feeble grind. Just the way that trick feels just sitting in it. It's probably my favorite. And sorry, I'm forgetting the hardest trick.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that changes every day.
Yeah.
Like I'll learn something. I'm like, that was the hardest. And the next day. When I was younger, I did a nollie hard flip over a 10 stair. I don't think I'm doing that ever again. So that's probably, I'd say that's the hardest.
All right. Solid. And so were the tricks that you did for the 30 days harder overall or like more technical, I guess, than the 50 tricks, 50 states?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it's kind of tough to say because that was 5 years ago. So I've naturally progressed since then. And that was, a pivotal point in pushing me. But these tricks were definitely harder. Another thing to account is I was daily vlogging on YouTube the whole time during the 50 tricks, 50 states, uploading in real time and driving to a new state every day. So there's really no time in the day. So it's like, all right, if you're going to try an insane trick for 5 hours, I had to cut it down to like 2 or 3 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they were hard. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any particular favorite state?
I think New Orleans.
Really?
So Louisiana, but I just loved being in New Orleans. Hawaii was the last day.
Okay.
It's like flying there and like ending in like this tropical kind of place. That was cool. Always wanted to go to Alaska.
Yeah.
So, flying there for, even though it was only a day, that was a cool experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So let's get into the skate. So the push across America. So I don't know what the YouTube or Instagram algorithms were tweaking for me, but I saw the reason I came across you was because of this skate across America. I'm sure skate fans and people in the scene probably know you from your YouTube videos and things like we were just talking about. But just to break down the stats here. So it was 3,162 miles over 57 days from Venice Beach, California to Virginia Beach, Virginia. And you average roughly 55 miles a day. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so what exactly constituted the Guinness World Record?
All right. So, the record technically is called the fastest crossing of America on a skateboard. The guy who had the record before, Jack Smith, he had done it a couple of times, but he did it in a different way where he was like leapfrogging. So basically someone would skate 5 miles, he would skate 5, and they were kind of doing it.
Oh, interesting.
Leapfrog style, they call it, I think. And
so was that like a tandem record?
Yeah, tandem. There you go. I think that's the word they use. Sorry. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so when I contacted Guinness and like asked questions, do I have to beat like 2 or 3 people's times like by myself? Like, actually, no, you could just set the record.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like I just basically had to finish. And I was like, all right, if I'm doing it, I'm going to try to do it as fast as I can.
Yeah. Sure.
And I had work, so I had to get back for that.
Yeah. And do they differ? So when you say skateboarding, does that differentiate longboarding and skateboarding? Because I imagine longboarding.
No. Yeah, there's no actual difference, which I think I mentioned that to Guinness, but I don't think they really care.
Okay.
But yeah, there is a difference. The line is, no one's really sure exactly. It gets blurry at a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. So I guess kind of circling it back to in the beginning of this chat, you were saying how you were preparing, you were like learning all you could about longboarding. So what I guess was the reason for that, for anyone who's just unaware of how it works?
All right. So skateboarding, you use really hard wheels to do tricks, slide your wheels when you're doing grinds, slides, stuff like that. And on a longboard, you use soft wheels. It's just, you cover much more ground, everything's much more smooth. So I had to learn what wheels would be best, because if you go too soft, it kind of slows you down.
Yeah.
Too hard, I'm going to be feeling every piece of grainy concrete. So I just had to try to figure out like, what's the best balance here,
Okay. But you kept a skateboard, like, I don't know what the right term is, frame, I guess?
Yeah.
Like body?
I used a skateboard because I'm a skateboarder.
Yeah.
If I used a longboard, it probably would have been much easier. Yeah. And people were probably like, why is he doing it that way? I don't know. I thought, I'm a skateboarder. I actually skate.
Right.
So I'm going to ride a skateboard. I don't know. I'm just like what I do, probably would have been easier on a longboard though, for sure.
And any, I guess like, again, like logistically, like change wheels, change any parts or anything, like same board, everything?
No. My board, I went a little bit wider just so I had more room to stand, but not much, maybe half an inch.
Okay.
Trucks were basically the same. Everything was the same, just the wheels a little bit softer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the ground across America, you can imagine, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, especially in like those Midwest states where it's patches of gravel and everything all over the place. Actually, on that note, if you ran into like a dirt road or something that wasn't pavement, how would you?
Yeah, so people were laughing at me because if I ran into a dirt road or something, I would just turn around and like 10 miles added to the trip and just skate because I wanted to do it legitimately and I was pushing every inch of the country.
Yeah.
So if I made a mark at the end of the day, I started exactly at the mark. Yeah. If I fell off my board, like I'm not jumping ahead a foot.
EFI every fucking inch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And do you have to replace did you replace the wheels? Like, did they wear down as you went?
I probably should have numerous times, but I didn't. I took them all the way across the country. It was funny about halfway through, everyone's commenting and I'm just kind of laughing like, all right, I know I'm good. These are fine. Like they're still rolling, you know, this is just funny at this point. And then I kind of committed to it. And then the last week or two, they were terrible. Pieces falling off. They looked like just pieces of cheese. Like it just didn't even seem real. I was riding on them. And it was actually started to slow me down because it wasn't even spinning on the axis anymore. Like it was like,
yeah.
Or, it's like, you know, it was kind of like not like a perfect circle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the last week I was like, are these going to give out? I'm bombing like the Appalachians and just like, is this going to work? But ended up making it. And I think that made for a funny story and, just made it more memorable.
Yeah,
for me at least.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff where it's like, if nothing else, even if someone beats the record down the line, they probably are going to change their wheels.
Definitely.
You know?
They could do so many things that I didn't do to probably beat me. But to me, it was more like those experiences are what matters. A word made by a beer company,
right.
a title means nothing to me. It's just ephemeral, you know? So I care more about the experiences, making people laugh, having this funny item. That's cool.
Yeah, that's sweet, man. Mm-hmm. Now, you did this all solo, no support vehicle, nothing. So how did you carry your stuff? What'd you bring?
Yeah. I've lived a very minimalistic life, which kind of led me to make this a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I brought 2 outfits, basically almost what I'm wearing now, and then 1 extra in my backpack, which I ended up throwing out because I was like, I'm just going to wash this every night, and I don't need the extra clothes, the extra weight. Threw that out. Deodorant, toothbrush, literally the bare essentials, and that's it. And I brought an extra set of wheels.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that I didn't use. So that was just a ton of weight that was unnecessary. But on the other hand, if you're in the middle of the desert, the wilderness, you're going to want some wheels on you.
Yeah. So did you have any, because I'm just thinking the terrain of the U.S. Like, did you go, I think you went through like the desert, right? Like through the Mojave Desert.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I went through, what's it called? Yeah. Through Joshua Tree, Palm Springs, then the wilderness right there. I forget what it's called.
So like, that's a pretty long stretch with nothing. So like how did you kind of plan through that mentally? Like, or in terms of like, bringing extra water or food or whatever, or would you just like, screw it, let's do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, all my experiences kind of led me to that, and skating, trying tricks for 3 to 5 hours straight and not letting myself have a drink of water until I land the trick. Yeah. Things like that kind of prepared me for, all right, you're going to go 5 hours in the desert by yourself.
Yeah.
So I had a Camelback, 3 liters, so I'd fill that up and just kind of conserve it. And there's not really much you could do to prepare, you know what I mean? I mean, there is, but the only thing was I set up a ride for the middle of the desert. So it was a 120-mile stretch.
Right.
There's no hotels, so I'm not camping. So I set my mark. I made it halfway through, like 60 miles in. Had a viewer meet me, took some drone shots, got a ride back, and then he took me back in the morning, and I started there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But other than that, that was all the preparation, though.
Yeah. I think there's something really fun and just original about like not thinking too far in advance. And honestly, when you think anything, when I did a bike trip across the country, and like you obviously cover more ground on a bike, but even that, it's like you can't really think more than like 2 days ahead, because it's like, 1, you'll freak yourself out, and 2, it's like it's just more enjoyable to kind of be like, just to go with the flow, see where it goes.
Yeah.
Were there any moments throughout any part of the country that you really enjoyed over the other? I imagine the Midwest is kind of, there's a reason it's called the flyover states, but I don't know if you had like a personal preference or not.
Let's see. I mean, something about the desert, I just love it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the dry air or just the way it looks. You got the Joshua trees and things everywhere. Like, I don't know. Something about being out there just felt natural.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Awesome. All right. And then, so the trip, did you do this you did it for a fundraiser, right? There was like a foundation or something?
Yeah, it was for a nonprofit called Natural High. I've been sober for I think like 9 years now. So when I was setting out, I was like, all right, I should probably raise money for a cause that has helped me, you know. So
what's Natural High?
So the Natural Highs, they're in classrooms in all 50 states, and they encourage kids to find something they're passionate about to focus on instead of drugs and alcohol.
Okay. Oh, and so one of them being skateboarding. Is it only for skateboarding? Or
No,
is
it's
it just
anything. Whatever your natural high is. Bike riding, skateboarding.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, natural. Oh,
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. And so like, did you have a goal that you were trying to hit throughout the trip, or was it like?
It was 50,000 was the fundraiser limit. We hit it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's always like a.
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming from an alcoholic, 15 grand in debt, no job, no nothing, to giving that much money to charity is just like kind of unreal. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It didn't make sense,
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting 9 years. So I'm glad I was able to leave that behind.
Yeah, for sure. And was it did you skate before you decided to go clean, or was it that was like the thing that kind of was your outlet to get out of that bubble, I guess?
Yeah. So I've been skating for 25 years, and around the years where a lot of people get into drinking and stuff like that in the 20s, and I got injured, went down that path, skated a little bit less, got a couple DWIs, and then I started the YouTube channel once I quit drinking, and that was kind of like the excitement that got me out.
Gotcha.
Like something new to focus on, that to leave that behind.
Yeah. And I mean, there's definitely a lot of, like we were saying off air, like there's a lot of things that go into that. So you have to learn all these different facets, and like, if you're not locked in, like it's not going to be successful.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
That's incredible. Do you think that was like the driving force, or was that something that because when you do any kind of adventure for a cause, it's always this like weird line you have to tread where it's like, am I doing this for this cause, or am I doing this because of this cause and I'm doing it for myself or whatever?
For me, this Skate Across America was for myself. I had an idea. I've been pushing myself since I got sober for years, just working at it, leveling up, getting better and better. And then the idea hit me. That's all I really care about is originality, like something new, exciting, hasn't been done yet. So I'm going to go explore. So that was really all I cared about, pushing my own limits and the world's limits. I don't know, just learning something new.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like, oh, well, I'm doing this. People are going to be watching. Like, it's, that's what you should give back to something.
Yeah.
And it just made sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Now, I was, but before we started this conversation, I was asking it if you could bring your skateboard in from the trip, and you said you don't have it.
Yeah.
So what happened? Where is it?
Yeah. So Tony Hawk actually bought the board.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He had me on his podcast after I finished, which was nuts. I've been watching him since I was a kid. I think the first video I ever watched, he was in, 25 years ago. So that was an awesome experience. And he brought it up a couple of times on the podcast, and I couldn't tell if he was joking or not. And then off air, he was like, no, actually, I want the board.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's in his, I think he has a little museum in his house, like downstairs. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. Still can't believe it.
That's nuts, man. It's always a surreal experience to meet like someone, who is, I use the term idol lightly, but someone who like really got you into the sport and all that. So that's
for sure. And got tons of people into the sport with the games and the, everything he's accomplished. So it was really cool.
Yeah. And everything I've heard, he seems like a really down to earth guy too.
100%. He's like exactly any video you've ever seen. He's like even keel. Like that's exactly how he is, know? Yeah.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. And he also wrote, I think it was like the foreword or the intro to your book.
Yeah, he wrote the foreword for my Skate Across America photo book. I was just like, I'm going to send him a message, ask, like, why not? I think within a day or two, he's like, yeah, I'm on a flight tomorrow, and just sent it right back. And I was like, what? That's insane. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Shout out to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. So, I guess about the book, just maybe tell everyone what it is.
Yeah.
How it came to be.
Yeah, it's called Pushing Through America, and it's basically I walk everyone through day by day, all my experiences, people I met, what I went through, my preparation, the aftermath. My fiance even writes like her experience in there, and that's paired with iPhone photos I never shared, and then professional photographers that met me along the way. Cool. So it's like mix of all different types of stuff.
Nice. And I'm assuming it's chronological, so you can kind of see like
you're going day by day. You got the preparation and all that stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Would you ever do it again?
Yeah. Actually, I was thinking the other day, I was we'll save that for another podcast. Right. Yeah, I might maybe in the future, but I don't know. We'll see how long these legs have in them.
Yeah. Nice, man. Last question. I ask this to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
How do you personally define adventure?
How do I define adventure? I would say just exploring, unknown. You're in a place where you're unsure. Yeah. That's really it. And that could be anything for anyone. Everyone has a different definition, you know?
Yeah. Short and sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.